Hi, my sweet followers. Whether you're following me on TikTok, on Instagram, Facebook, or YouTube, I want to say Merry Christmas to you first and foremost. And I also want to say that I have been missing in action for a while. And that is partly to do with me working like crazy, um, getting lots of training. I'm in Bible college and I'm working on books. I revamped my website, and I'm also working on coaching and mentoring packages. I think my next adventure would be an actual app where you can, do it yourself, go at your own pace for mental and emotional crises and challenges that a lot of us have. I find that everyone has some kind of mental or emotional challenge that they're going through. And a lot of times we keep things inside and try to work through them on our own, but sometimes that does not work. It makes things worse. And I think the number one reason why we don't seek help, we don't let anybody in, we stay silent, is because of the stigma that's out there. But if we can get past the stigma and realize that we have some difficulties that we need to work through, we can be better as a whole. I am personally going through some things myself. And one thing that I have realized is I give the best advice to others. I give advice to help save them from going down the path that I went down and had to learn through experience, heartache, humiliation, pain, trauma, all those things I have experienced. So I use my lived experience to give advice and pour in and inspire and encourage other people to live their life according to, for me, what God would like for us to do. His will, not ours. So, with all that being said, I have been struggling with some things. Prior to now, I did self-care, I did inner reflection, I did all of the things to become aware of what Keisha was doing to affect my relationships, the way I saw myself, the love that I had for myself, and how I allowed other people to use and abuse and emotionally and mentally drain me. And I took a long time to work on Keisha. And that's how I am able to coach and mentor others. However, I have been so absorbed into the joys of my life for this past year, 2025. And we're about a couple days out, and it's going to be 2026. But this year has been like a whirlwind for me. I mean, blessings were coming, and they're still coming, and I'm welcoming them all. But in the midst of it, I have allowed myself to not see what is right in front of my face. And I have been dealing with so much emotionally and mentally to where I am now seeing that I have allowed some people who are going through crisis mentally and emotionally to interrupt my peace. I was recently married this year, and for the most part, you guys, I was happy. And I'm sharing my most vulnerable moment with you because I know that there's someone that's listening to this that's going to be able to relate because it's real. And a lot of people are going through some of the things that I'm going through, and you wouldn't know unless you open up and you talk about it. And I love connection. I love to connect with other people and share my story because I feel like it will help someone else. So I have gotten married, and this person I love deeply. But what I find out is there are patterns with this person that I can't help with. And if you know what I'm talking about, you know what I mean. There is a level of mental instability and emotional detachment, lack of emotional intelligence, the ignorance, the ignoring, the deflecting, the dismissiveness, the inability to cope with their past trauma, to find a resolution, to come to some kind of recognition that, hey, there is something affecting my relationships and I might need to look within myself versus looking at everyone else. But what I want to say is grief, denial is real. A lot of times, a lot of people are grieving over the things that they were deprived of as a child, and they cannot let it out. They also are in denial because they don't want to be confronted about the things that they need to fix. It's easier for someone to cover it up and mask it by pointing the blame or shifting the blame on someone else, when in fact, if they actually sat down with themselves, it would force them to recognize the things about themselves that they have to fix. They are in fear of having to go through those emotions, to feel those emotions. But it's in those moments when you go through that stage of looking inside yourself to see what it is that you may be doing, hold yourself accountable, you have to experience and you have to identify with your emotions. That's the only way that you'll be able to come out of whatever situation you're in with a solution. So, getting back to my original story, and I hope I haven't lost anybody yet. And I'm going to wrap this up in a few minutes, but something was said to me that they didn't want to get married to me. Now, I could take that a lot of different ways. And at first, when I heard it, it really did something to me. It hurt me. But I am now coming to the realization that some people say things to hurt other people because they're hurting. And that's their only coping mechanism, is to make sure they hurt someone else. But in that reality, I had to remind myself that person's feelings has nothing to do with me, because I am very sure of myself. And if you are very sure of yourself and you've done the work on yourself and you know the things that you need to work on and you admit them and you accept them and you work on them, there is nothing that someone can say or do to you to interfere with the progress you've made for yourself mentally and emotionally. There are a lot of hurt people out here, and they're struggling mentally and emotionally because they are dealing with demons from their past that they refuse to confront. And that has nothing to do with you. So instead of us listening to people criticize us, put us down, not nurture us, not support us, tell us all the things that we are doing wrong, never praise us, never give us acknowledgement or appreciate the things that we do, but yet instead they talk negatively about you in front of your face or behind your back and criticize you and make you feel like you are less than, and you know that you've been doing everything that you possibly can to pour out of you into someone else, I would caution you to sit down and think about the things that they're actually saying. Because on the surface level, they can say something to you and it might rub you the wrong way and you may get in your feelings. But the key is not to let your emotions control you. You need to control your emotions. But in doing so, think deeply about what that person is actually saying, because there's depth to what they're actually saying. And 9 times out of 10, I'm not a counselor and I'm not a therapist. I'm not a doctor. But I will tell you this. I cannot diagnose, but I am a mental health first aid responder. So I can deal with crisis and challenges that people have emotionally and mentally. I am also in training for peer recovery specialists, and I have been doing coaching and mentoring for years. And I will say this, you cannot help a person that is going through a crisis that do not want to get help for themselves. You can talk to them and try to help them as much as you can until you're blue in the face. You can try to change the sky purple and they will still not understand or admit fault or take accountability for their actions, their behavior, and their habits until they have lost everybody that they thought they had in their life and find themselves alone. That's when they are forced to be alone by themselves and recognize who they actually are. And I had to pause for a minute because I don't want to say the wrong thing. They will be forced to recognize who they actually are. And when that happens, usually they do not like the person that is looking back at them in the mirror. But in doing so, you have to get to a point where you realize your mental and your emotional stability depends on you. Don't let anybody interfere with the progress that you have made or the progress that you are making. Protect your peace, protect your sanity, your emotional and your mental stability. Because someone else that is not emotional and mentally stable will cause you to be depressed, have anxiety, feel down about yourself, question your self-worth, and a lot more. So I hope that this message resonates with someone, because I know that I'm not the only one that's going through situations such as what I have mentioned. Now, mental health is real. Your emotional health is real. But there's a lot of people out here that's going through mental health challenges and crises, and it's affecting the rest of us. So if you do know someone that is going through some mental challenges, get them some help. You may not be able to reach them, but if they're willing, make sure they go through counseling or therapy. And possibly they're going to need some medication to redirect, because they're so far gone till that thing is controlling them. If this resonated with you, or you know somebody that is going through it, or you have been through it yourself, please comment. Drop me a few lines and tell me your experience, your story, and how you dealt with it and how you overcame what you were going through. Merry Christmas, y'all. And I want you to pray for me, because I'm going to be praying for you.